I'm joined by Gabor Gurbacs, the digital asset strategist for VanEck. Good to meet you, and yeah, you enjoying the summit?
Yeah, it's excellent. Crypto Compare has done a good job. I think we have about 700 people, or 600 to 700 today, and banks, bigger institutions, crypto folks, sort of like a broad spectrum of people here today.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's like it's a packed at the moment. So we must ask, obviously, what is the current status of the Bitcoin ETF? How's it going?
Yeah, so as you know, we've been actively working with Fidelitys to bring to market physical Bitcoin ETF that's insured and sort of works as a regular ETF. We've been at it for a while and sort of trying to get this approved. Right now, it's under consideration, so we're going back and forth with the regulators on responses. The last time that it could be approved is mid fall, so we have some time to work out a few outstanding questions for the fund.
Sure. And what do you think the chances of a Bitcoin ETF being pushed through are? What are the chances?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? It's like the billion-dollar question or more. If you ask me, I can't directly speak to a filing that is actively in registration. I think the approval of a Bitcoin ETF is serving the public interest, and I sort of tweeted this. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at my name, which is at Gabor Gurbacs. I tweeted that there's liquidity benefits, there's custody benefits, there's regulatory and tax benefits of having an ETF to market. So I think it's the regulator's best interest to eventually approve the ETF. I don't know when. I just know that right now, investors' best option is to go often offshore into unprotected platforms. So we are committed to drive the process to change that and offer safer investment solutions to investors.
Incredible. Does the regulatory uncertainty within the crypto markets concern you? Do you think it's an easy problem to fix? Obviously, that's the problem with the SEC. That's their issue. Do you think it is a problem and a concern?
I don't think so. It's just a new market. There are certain things in place like pricing, custody, and tools to make sure that the markets are not manipulated. We have solved the pricing problem with MBIS, or VanEck's wholly owned subsidiary, so we think we have right pricing solutions. I think the right custody solutions are coming. The structure that we have in place we think is appropriate. With respect to market manipulations, we have worked with spot trading platforms or crypto exchanges, and then put some surveillance on some of those platforms. So right now the number of surveilled exchanges is growing. So I think we have all the answers to basically the questions that regulators have. And so again, I don't know about the outcome, but I'm always trying to do the right thing to build a decent market.
Absolutely. And if a Bitcoin ETF got pushed through, say yours, do you think it might have a similar effect as it did on gold's ETF?
Well, no one knows. I mean, obviously, sort of institutions. An ETF has the potential to attract institutions and participants that cannot be in this market today for regulatory reasons. So I think there is some kind of impact there, but I think the most important thing is accepting Bitcoin into the mainstream financial system, and knowing that it's not really the price impact that matters, but the fact that the asset is alive and accepted to the institutional system. So I think our focus should be more like, what are the ways in which we can enable Bitcoin usage sort of across the board, because right now people already have options to buy Bitcoins on exchanges, over the counter, mine it in a bunch of ways. So it's just kind of weird that you can put it in a fund for it's Coinbase has more customers than one of the largest brokerage firm in the United States. If that's not telling, then what is, right?
Kind of coming back to that idea, does Bitcoin really need an ETF? What's your ideas on that?
No, Bitcoin doesn't need an ETF. Like I'm a Bitcoin fan, and I think Bitcoin is in itself is a really interesting technology, and similarly, gold didn't need an ETF to exist for 5,000 to 7,000 years. But I think in order to make the process of an ETF has unique benefits. For instance, liquidity through the secondary market or the authorized participant market, proper tax documents, which are kind of a pain today to manage. And there's sort of like reinvestments tax-free type of reinvestments at the end of the year. Basically, reinvestments from forks and blockchain-based corporate actions are tax advantage in an ETF form, and it's for a mom and pop, it might be inappropriate to hold their own keys, and they don't know, and 95% of people don't know how to hold their keys, so it's just an easier vehicle to provide access to Bitcoin itself. Eventually, I think the financial system will be enriched by the unique qualities of what Bitcoin brings, like key management and owning your own keys and having the right to your own assets. It's just what I like to say is we need to walk before we run, and an ETF is walking before we would run to a completely new world. Yeah,
that's an interesting way of putting it. And do you think? I mean, obviously there was a huge hype around the ETF and ETF back in 2018. Do you think it's overhyped now?
I don't know how to answer that question. I think we get more and more questions about sort of why the ETF doesn't exist, and I'm like, well, it's not on us. It's the regulator's job. Normally, an ETF is approved or disapproved within 240 days, and well in that. A lot of the standard ETFs gets approved before. I mean, it's a uniquely complex area, and so I guess it's different. I love the fact that people learn about exchange traded funds in crypto and the young generation about investment vehicles. Like, people didn't talk about exchange traded funds, how they're taxed, how the liquidity of markets, and what a market maker is before talking about like an ETF and crypto. So the education aspect of it is really valuable. I mean, everything is overhyped in crypto, so like in ETF, it's not an exception. I love the structural developments that come with it, like the right pricing indices with MVIS and Crypto Compare, the conference organizer. They're a unique reason. They exist to help ETFs and financial firms to benchmark different digital assets. So that's one practical result. This comes from the quest to get an ETF to market, and custody solutions come out, surveillance tool, better trading engine. These are all benefiting the entire market because the ETF has such a high standard for everything that everyone needs to grow up. And I think while the existence of ETF is often overhyped, the benefits that come from it and structural developments are actually really useful.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned those developments. So Fidelity and backed, that kind of entry into the market, will that help an ETF approval?
I don't know. Like, obviously, larger companies participating is helpful in the space, but my bet was always with the smaller and independent companies. I appreciate their work. And the real hands-on Bitcoin development, the real hands-on index development, more than large companies. But again, everyone should do their own part, and I welcome those initiatives, and we're one of those initiatives trying to get a fund to market. But again, I think we should not forget about the guys who actually build these new protocols and potentially new financial systems. So.
Gabor Gurbacs, thank you so much. All right.